I just found an 8mm Mauser strip on the ground. How did this get here? I was under the impression that I've picked up all of my 8mm Mauser strips, but I guess I was incorrect on that. Hello there, people of the internet. How is everybody doing today? I'm doing alright, thanks for asking. So, I want to go ahead and talk about one thing in particular today. A lot of times I'll bring up topics as to whether or not something is obsolete. Now, I guess the definition of obsolete all depends on specifically how you yourself define it. There's a lot of people out there that deem something not to be obsolete because it still works and is still viable. Now, that has some validity to it, but it also does not have some validity to it. For example, the 45 ACP 1911, the old school steel frame 45 ACP single stack 1911, I have deemed those to be obsolete simply because there are better things out there on the market that hold more ammunition, they're way more cost effective, they're lighter weight, etc., etc. But there's people out there who believe the 1911 to not be obsolete only because of its ability to still get the job done and do what it needs to do. Now, a black powder rifle, a muzzle loader, that will also get the job done and do what it needs to do, but there are things out there that are far better and far more superior than that. I think that the confusion as to whether or not something is obsolete, people confuse that with people trying to say that it is bad. Obsolete does not mean bad. Obsolete only means that it is older technology and we have developed newer things that do the same exact job in a much more efficient way, or they do the same job much more cost-effective way, or they do the same job with a much lighter weight tool, etc., etc. This right here is a very good example of that. This right here is well, not this one, but this right here is a representation. Thompson submachine gun, 45 ACP, sent a lot of lead downrange really quickly. In its heyday, whenever it was designed in World War I, this right here was revolutionary. It was used to sweep trenches. 45 ACP was something that the United States government was using, but modern technology has pushed 9mm to the same ballistics as 45 ACP, dumping the same amount of energy on target. Well, the 9mm ballistics dumps the same amount of energy on target as the ballistics of a 45 ACP. I'll go ahead and correct myself right there before somebody else does it for me. Thompson submachine gun, fantastic little gun. I love these things so much. There are only a few very iconic American firearms out there, and this right here definitely falls inside of that category. However, with the 45 ACP being a pistol caliber cartridge, especially a heavy one, you don't have a lot of range with it. These are very heavy, they're very bulky. If you have a full auto one, they climb like they climb quite a bit, especially with the axis of the bore being quite a deal higher than the actual stock itself. They're also vastly more expensive, they're harder to find, they're harder to maintain in the field, especially in comparison to your modern stuff like an AK-47 or an AR-15. These right here I would deem obsolete. I'm not saying that they are bad. I am just saying that we have developed technology that is better than what the technology is that was created 100 years ago. Just because something is deemed to be obsolete does not mean that it is deemed to be incapable or ineffective. I mean, hell, a battle axe would probably give a bigger wound cavity to somebody than a 380 firing ball ammunition. It would probably do that quite a bit, but I would take the 380 with ball ammunition over a battle axe any day in order to defend myself against whatever mass is coming after me. There has been several times where I have talked about whether or not something was or was not obsolete, and people, like I said, they just have it in their mind that whenever somebody calls a specific tool or piece of technology obsolete, they deem it that I'm trying to insult it or call it bad or etc., etc., but that is simply not the case. That is not the definition of obsolete. We simply have better technology that does the same job way more efficiently, whether or not it's cost, weight, actual effectiveness. For example, your 1911. It's a heavy steel frame, single stack 1911. that is an obsolete design, especially whenever you could very easily, I mean, you could keep the 45 ACP, but you could double stack it very, very easily in the size of the frame that the single stack comes in. That's not something that's hard to do. Or you could pump it up to a higher capacity with 9mm, having some defensive ammunition that is ballistically identical to the ball ammunition that you would run from your standard 1911 that you deem to be the end-all be-all of absolutely everything. Just because it is obsolete technology does not mean that it is not fantastic in every single way. Hell, I spent money, a lot of money, on obsolete technology, various bolt-action rifles and designs from 150 years ago, several black powder rifle designs that are way, way, way obsolete in comparison to what we have nowadays. But that does not mean that they are not effective. If you hit somebody with .490 50 caliber ball, and you hit somebody with a 45 ACP, I imagine that they are going to notice that they've been shot no matter what it is that you've hit them with. The only difference is the tool delivering the 45 ACP is a lot more effective than the tool delivering the .4 or the .490 caliber ball. I gotta remember that, .490 caliber ball. Delivering that onto target. One of them reloads very, very slowly, and the other is a single stack steel frame handgun that was designed, you know, 120 years ago at this point. So I just want to go ahead and point out this definition of obsolete. Obsolete does not mean that it will not work, because there's way, way obsolete technology out there that will still work and that will still get the job done. But I mean, let's go ahead and pass beyond firearms. Let's say you wanted to chop down a tree and somebody handed you a gas-powered chainsaw so you could go ahead and chop down that tree. But you're like, I will go ahead and use my little hand axe that, you know, is 150 years old, passed down in generations, and I will spend the next 4.5 hours chopping down that tree. Meanwhile, chainsaw guys is like, all right, I'll take my chainsaw and I'll go cut down this whole forest by the time you're done with that one tree. The axe is definitely obsolete when it is compared to the chainsaw. So the 1911, although it will still work, is definitely obsolete when compared to various other offerings we have. God, I can't even think with these things on. I have this ringing in my right ear. The 1911 is definitely obsolete, although it will still do the same job in comparison to some of the other polymer-framed handguns that we have out on the market, chambered in a smaller caliber round that used to be a lot weaker than the 45 ACP, no longer is. And I'm not entirely sure where I was going with that point, but I think I said everything I was going to say, so I'm going to put this back on. And the ringing in my left ear, or right ear, yes, my right ear, the ringing in my right ear is going to pick up exponentially. So I'm going to send 5 rounds of 45 ACP downrange just because I have my Thompson M1A1 lookalike out here, and there's no reason for me not to launch lead down onto target. Now this thing is a little bit finicky. The magazine I have in this takes grease gun mags, and the grease gun mag I have with it is very well worn, so I have to kind of hold the magazine in place. I also need more 45 ACP ammunition. I'm down to like my last 20 something rounds, probably going to be like 15 something rounds by the time I'm done with this magazine, but I have 5 rounds in here, so let's go ahead and send this downrange. And then I will see what I can find in terms of ammunition. Now, this thing does fire just a hair high. I have it zeroed out so I can hit shit at about 100 yards, and we're sitting at about 40 or so right now. So I have to aim at the bottom of the steel, and it looks like I was hitting around the top of the steel, so I still made my hits on target right where I wanted to. And this magazine is so worn out that I don't even have to hit the magazine release right here on the side of the gun. There's a little push button, but I don't even have to hit that. I could just pull the magazine right out. So this is definitely, yeah, it's definitely seen some better days. But it's the only one I have, so it will work. Alright, I want to hear what you guys' opinions are, because I imagine that a video like this is going to have a lot of people saying a lot of different opinions, and by all means, if you are trained and efficient with whatever piece of technology it is that you decide to use, you go ahead and use it. I love the 1911. It is one of my favorite handguns out there in all of existence. I will take a 1911 over a Glock any day simply because I admire the 1911 a lot more than a Glock. However, I will say that the Glock is a far superior piece of technology in comparison to the 1911. Just because I like the 1911 better does not mean that it is not obsolete in comparison to some of this newer age technology that we have available to us. So I have repeated myself several times in this video, but I still think that I've made my point. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are down below. If you like this kind of content, subscribe to the channel, because I do this kind of stuff all the time. If you like the video, do me a favor and actually like the video. That helps out with the algorithm. What else? Down in the description, you're going to find a bunch of links to all sorts of stuff, including an email sign-up, just in case. Okay, well, I am going to walk through this field like a badass holding a Thompson submachine gun. It is not the best piece of technology that we have available to us, but in my personal opinion, just my opinion, somebody with one of these is way, way more badass than anybody carrying an AR-15. I should go over some of the different things that GIs carrying Thompson submachine guns have witnessed. Just some of the historical events, the pairs that these boys had must have clanked when they walked. That's why they had so much gear on them that was clanking around anyway, because it didn't matter. They were gonna make noise anyway. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and walk across this field very proudly with my American heritage and go have something to eat, because the sun is setting and it's getting late and I'm hungry. So you guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day, and thanks for watching. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.